The greatest Christmas I ever experienced came when I was around 6 or 7 years old. It was completely filled with magical moments. It was not only Christmas Eve, but it was snowing outside. It had started around sundown and got heavier every hour. A thick coat of white covered everything. It was early evening when the doorbell rang. There was something strange about it. I couldn't tell you why, it just seemed odd. I looked at my mom. She sort of shrugged and said, "Well, go see who it is." I ran to the front door. Like all kids, I didn't walk anywhere, I just ran. I opened the door, and to my surprise, there was nobody there. Thinking that maybe somebody was hiding just out of sight, I stepped out onto the porch. Not being dressed to be outside in a snowstorm, a shiver ran through my body, but the shiver had less to do with the cold and more to do with what I noticed, or rather, I didn't notice, on the walkway that led to our front door. There were no footprints in the snow. I looked around the porch and realized the only footprints on the porch were my own. As I nervously turned back towards the front door, I saw it. An enormous red Christmas stocking, the kind made out of that stiff mesh. The biggest one I had ever seen, and it was jam-packed with all kinds of cool-looking toys and gadgets and candy. It was standing up in the open metal milk box next to my front door, and it had my name written across the cardboard label stapled to the top. The magic had begun. Unlike the last 364 nights when I constantly argued and protested, on this particular night I was eager to go to bed. The idea being that the sooner I got to sleep, the sooner I would wake up and it would be Christmas morning. My parents were only too happy to oblige. I shared the upstairs bedroom with my parents and my baby sister. My bed was right next to a window that looked to the rear of the house. I laid there for hours, eager to fall asleep, but too full of nervous energy and excitement to succeed. So I just stared. I stared at the dimly lit pictures that adorned the wall next to my bed. Ever since I saw a real freight train go by one summer day, just a few feet from the tracks, I was obsessed with them. The wall next to my bed was covered with pictures of giant locomotives. Eventually, I just stared through the window at the stars twinkling overhead. That's when I saw him. Way, way up in the sky, almost too far to see, there he was, unmistakable because of the red light shining from his nose. It was Rudolph, leading Santa's sleigh through the night sky. It was too far away and too dark to make out the sleigh or the other reindeer, but there was no doubt in my mind that the source of that red glow meant he was coming, and my parents had told me if I was awake, he would never stop at my house. I closed my eyes tightly and begged sleep to come. Downstairs, I heard my father coming into the house. He had been at the local church for a Christmas service. He was in the choir. I could hear him say to my mother, "Do you think he's awake? I've got to tell him what I just saw." He started up the stairs. I was determined to make him think I was asleep. I had seen it too, and I was so afraid that being awake was going to ruin everything. He sat on the edge of the bed. I could feel the cold coming off his coat. He called to me. I opened my eyes. He said, Guess what I just saw when I was walking home from church? I answered, Rudolph? No, something way better than that. I told him about how just a little while ago I thought I saw Rudolph high up in the sky. He said, You must have, because just now, as I was walking down the street in the snow, just a few houses away from ours, I saw Santa Claus walking down the middle of the street in the opposite direction. Years later, I learned that this was no fib. He actually saw jolly Saint Nick with a white beard, a red suit trimmed with white fur, walking down the opposite side of the street, walking quietly through the snow. He watched him turn up a neighbor's driveway and disappear into the house. He arrived home as excited as a child and wished I had been there to see it. I was even more terrified now that I had caused him to skip our house because I was awake. My father assured me that it wouldn't be a problem and that Santa wouldn't get to us until well after everyone in the house, including him, was asleep. My father went back down the stairs, and I fell asleep within minutes. I woke up early in the morning before the sun, and I could hear something downstairs. It wasn't like a person or anything. It was more of a steady noise that seemed to get louder and then get softer and get louder and then get softer. It was no noise that I had ever heard before. I looked over at my parents' bed. They were sitting up in bed, smoking cigarettes. I told them in excited tones that I could hear something downstairs. They said they could hear it too. What did I think it was? I told them that I didn't know, but I bet it had something to do with Christmas. It seemed like an eternity before I was allowed to dash out of the bedroom and run down the stairs to shouts of, "Don't run!" But there was no stopping me. I don't think my feet ever touched a step. As I hit the floor and turned towards the living room, there was the source of the unusual noise. Steadily circling the Christmas tree was a huge set of American Flyer electric trains, with houses, trees, a crossing gate, a bridge, the works. Santa clearly did come to 99 Cannon Avenue, and it was the best Christmas any kid ever had.